consistent like 10K above months.
Downloaded it, I checked the date, July of 2021, and then I left my job in September of 2021.
Since then, I've sold websites, I've pivoted my business, I'm no longer doing social media management.
What has been like your highest month?
13K.
It has literally changed my life.
When you were designing on WordPress, were you charging way less? Like, what is that like?
Yeah, way less. I think my first WordPress was like $500.
$500 for a WordPress site versus like up to $5,000 for a show it site.
Welcome back, you guys. I am so excited for this interview. I feel like it's a long time coming too. So I'm glad that we finally got it on the books. Here I have Kate with Kate Lodge, and I just can't wait to chat because you have such a unique storyline that I think is quite different than our typical student. And so I'm really excited to dive into your story. And I know everyone will be super inspired, and you're just so amazing and cute. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Yeah,
Yes.
it's definitely a long time coming, and I'm super excited to have this conversation with you today.
I cannot wait. Well, why don't you give a little rundown, like a sexy little elevator pitch, but like, what do people need to know about you?
Okay, so I guess I'll start with the kind of one-liner. I help incredible women doing really important work in the world basically become magnetic through their brand and website. So that's the thing that I'm super passionate about, helping to really showcase the work and the magic that these people have to share with the world in service. So that's the thing that I'm really passionate about. So if I have to wrap it up, I'm a brand and website designer, but so much more than that. It's such a richer service offering and story that I can share.
I love that so much. I love talking with people who really see the impact on people and lives and businesses, because you are right. You're not just a brand and web designer. You're not just a title. You are in service to people. And I think that's such an incredible gift. And it's so fulfilling when you're really in it and you feel that, and your clients are excited about that exchange. Like, it really is, it's undescribable, honestly.
Oh, 100%. And I think, when I was working in corporate, I can kind of get into a bit of the backstory, but when I was working in corporate, I loved my job, and it was, at the time, I thought it was my dream job, but there was something missing, that kind of, I think it was the fulfillment of feeling like I was having an impact. And there were certainly times where I was working on projects that were benefiting the community in an impactful way because of the buildings that we were designing and, the work that we were doing. But I didn't necessarily feel that direct impact. Whereas the people that I'm working with now, I can see the passion and the energy that they're bringing, and it's almost a direct correlation between what I'm helping them with and then giving them the confidence to actually put themselves and their brands and their business out to the world. So yeah, I'm definitely way more fulfilled now than I ever was in my corporate life, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, let's go back then. I need to hear about corporate life.
Yeah.
What was corporate Katie like?
Look, I guess I'll give you the sort of short but longish version. So
Okay.
I'm originally from the UK. You can probably tell from my accent, but I moved to Australia just over 16 years ago. And I was actually sponsored to come over as an architect. So I studied art and design when I left school. I went to college. And then I sort of fell into this role in an architectural practice. And they were incredible. And they paid for me to go to university. And I studied construction. And then I did a degree in architecture. So design has always been integral to my life, both from a personal and a kind of professional career standpoint. And so I came to Australia as an architect, and then I sort of fell into this role of business development and marketing, because at the time the GFC had hit, and my boss was like, we need to kind of win some new work. Is that something you can help me with? And I'm never one to say no to a new challenge. So I was like, yeah, sure, I can win some new projects. And help you with that. So yeah, so I've been in the property and construction industry for pretty much my entire career since leaving school.
Mm.
And yeah, I kind of moved from a couple of different companies in that business development and marketing capacity. And then I went to work for an incredible creative agency in Sydney, and I was brought in there to be the head of business development and marketing, with the intention of growing their property side of the business from a design sort of perspective. And it was my dream job. It was combining architecture, it was combining brand, it was business development, it was all the things that I thought my career was kind of building to at that point. And and while it was good, it was incredible. And then I hit burnout. And I didn't really know about burnout at that time, but I experienced it mentally and physically, and it had a huge impact on all aspects of my life. So, yeah, basically went through this burnout experience, started working with a life coach because I realized that I needed some support. I couldn't, I couldn't see the what's the saying, the wood for the trees, or whatever that phrase is. So yeah, basically started working with this incredible life coach, and I realized probably 6 or 7 sessions into my 10 sessions of working with her that I needed to redesign my life, and I needed to make a
Mm.
big change because the environment that I was in wasn't going to change. And so I needed to kind of remove myself from that situation. So went through burnout, kind of just resigned from my job, didn't have a backup plan, didn't really know what I was going to do. This was back in 2019, and went on this incredible, like, personal and spiritual development journey. And there was definitely a lot of woo-woo shit that was happening at that time.
Love
Like, I
it.
just got, it wasn't on my radar previously, but I just kind of, I went all in. I joined women's circles, I started yoga, I started a meditation practice, and yeah, just really kind of reframed what was important to me
Mm.
and reprioritized my family, because before that, my career had very much been at the forefront, and then my family just had to fit around that, and that wasn't sustainable. So yeah, really kind of shook things up on that front, and started my own business. So I started my own kind of I call myself a strategic brand consultant, which was a bit sort of all encompassing, but it basically allowed me to continue to do the business development work that I was doing, dabble a little bit more with design myself, because in the
Mhm.
roles I hadn't been designing. I'd been the one winning the work for the designers.
Mm.
And so that was also the thing that was missing in my life, that real connection to creativity. And I realized after doing some of this development work that I was almost convinced that I was satisfied because I was like on the perimeter of creativity. And
Mm.
I convinced myself that I was in a creative world because I was working with these amazing creatives, when actually the thing that was missing from my life
Mm.
was being the creative. So
Mm.
I really stepped into that role in my new business. And yeah, that's just been a kind of evolving journey over the last 5 years. So
Wow.
yeah, so I'm a mum to a 13-year-old teenager, which is a wild ride and gives me a whole new perspective on lots of things. So yeah, that's kind of the recap of my corporate life, I guess.
I love it. Well, thank you for sharing. And it's crazy because I think, you know, it is so relatable to so many people because the corporate burnout is
Mhm.
such a thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's really beautiful that you experienced that and you didn't settle and you didn't create this dynamic in your life where you felt like you didn't have options and you were like just continuing on and just going to build up your, the ladder in corporate and just, I mean, burnout when it'll physically hit you. Like, I don't think
Oh,
people who
100%. Yeah.
haven't experienced it that have I don't think that it's hard to comprehend how it can actually affect your entire life, your mental health, your physical body, your emotional state, everything. And I think it's really sad and unfortunate that there's quite a lot of people in the corporate world that stick that out and ride that out and don't make that change in their life. And it's so devastating and sad, but it's also really, really powerful that you decided to change and to crave more and desire more. And it sounds like you went through like a spiritual awakening moment in your life.
Yeah.
Like little like eat, pray, love vibes
Yeah,
going on.
without the trip to Italy, but yeah, that would have been
Yeah.
nice.
I was gonna
But
say,
yeah,
how was Bali?
yeah. On the just touching on that physical aspect that you mentioned, which I think is important to highlight to people that may be experiencing this, because I've never shied away from talking about it. It's something that I've always been
Mhm.
really open about, because at the time I was going through it, I didn't know like it wasn't in my vocabulary to even talk about burnout. It was only
Mm.
after the fact that I realized what was happening. And I was at the hospital on an ECG monitor because I thought I was having a heart attack, when I realized it was actually
Wow.
my first panic attack. This intense anxiety that had built up to manifest in this physical heart palpitation and intense, you know feeling like I was going to die. Basically, it was that
Mm.
intense. And so I think if anybody's starting to experience even snippets of those symptoms, or the things that lead up to that, because for me, I know everybody's different, but for me, when I look back, it was I could definitely connect the dots and see the things that were happening on the way. But at
Mm.
the time, it felt like it happened so fast. It was kind of like
Mm.
0 to 100, like real quick. So now I like to talk to people about what some of those experiences were like, because I just think it's important for people to recognize the signs and try and,
Yeah.
almost nip it in the bud before it becomes, a mental and a physical experience. Because I remember one day, Becca, like driving into work, and it was right in the middle of these intense feelings that I was having. And I had a parking spot under the office, and I drove into work, and I felt okay. And then I physically couldn't get out of the car.
Mm.
And I sat there for 3 hours, just
Wow.
like bawling my eyes out. And then I'd get my shit together, and I'd be like, right, okay, I can do this. I can do this. And then I'd open the car door, and I
Wow.
physically couldn't get out. So it was pretty intense, it was.
Mm.
And whilst at the time it was an awful experience, I look back now, and I don't know if grateful is the right word, but I'll use grateful for, the
Mhm.
place of a better word, but I'm almost grateful that it happened, because it allowed me
Mm.
to really transform my life and my relationships, and focus on the things that I'm super passionate about. And yeah, it was a
Wow.
ride for sure.
It really is so crazy how powerful our like subconscious mind is and our body. Like it it's almost like your mind knew before you even registered, and then it was signaling to your body like, no, this is not aligned, like you need to get out. And it was
Mm.
basically like screaming at you being
Yeah.
like, don't go up there, don't go up there,
Yeah.
this isn't aligned, you need something different, more fulfilling, whatever it was that you were craving. And it's so crazy how powerful. And if you like really tap into your body,
Mm.
you can almost and some people probably are dropping off. They're going to be like, what are you talking about?
Yes. Sorry, I tend to talk a lot.
Yeah. But it really is crazy if you can like tap into your body and your intuition and like what you actually desire, like it will lead you to making maybe crazy decisions, maybe quitting corporate jobs, whatever it is, but it's ultimately positioning you to go down a path that will be more enjoyable and less anxious and all the feelings that led you to sitting in your car for 3 hours and not going
Yeah.
up. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious, when you were in that phase of your journey,
Mm.
was there a time that you had that was like a, I guess like rock bottom is like in some sense, like what led you to being like, okay, I'm done. And then did you
Yeah.
quit? Like, did you just not go back? Did you give your 30 days? Like actually, like logistically speaking, how did it all go down?
Yeah, so I'd been having these coaching sessions, and I took a break. It was in July. I just took a week off to go with my daughter and my partner up to the Gold Coast for a holiday. It was her birthday.
Hmm.
And my coach had said to me, okay, there's an exercise that I want you to do while you're on holiday, while you're outside of the office and you're not thinking about work. I want you to write a list of all of the things that you want out of your life, and
Hmm.
bring your family into the conversation as well. So it's not just a list of what you want, but it's like us as a family unit, like what are the things that we want. And so we'd had this incredible, week up the coast, and on the plane journey on the way back, I started writing this list because I'd kind of had a bit of space to kind of,
Mm-hmm.
just decompress and yeah, just get my head straight. And so I started writing this list, and I turned to my daughter on the plane, and I can't remember how old she was. So 13. So she was like 8 years old at the time. So yeah, like 5 years ago. And I turned to her and I sort of said, Indy Rose, this is what I'm doing. What are the things that you would like from this family? What are your dreams and what would you like? And of all the things a little 8-year-old girl could have said, bloody pink unicorn, like anything, she could have picked anything. The thing that she said to me was, I'd really like you to pick me up from school on time every now and again, because I was working so hard, sometimes at the office till 2 o'clock in the morning. And so she was going to like after school care, and then my partner was having to pick her up. And yeah, it was in that moment that I was like, holy shit, this is not good. My 8-year-old
Wow.
little girl, all she wants is for me to pick her up from school on time. And it just, for me, that was that like dagger to the heart, huge, huge moment of realization that something needed to change. And so the next morning, I handed in my letter of resignation, and they tried to
Wow.
convince me to stay, and I had, I did my 30 days, and they actually convinced me to
Wow.
stay on for an extra 2 weeks just to like help with the handover. And it was it was the toughest 2 weeks because mentally I checked out
You're already
after
out. Yeah.
like 30 days. But yeah, that's literally how it happened. It was that moment of realization that I needed something to change, and yeah, resigned the next day. So yeah.
Wow. That is such a beautiful reminder. It's all about the small things. And like even kids, like they just care about the small things. They care about quality time. They care about, it's so precious and it's so wholesome. And it also screams that that was your why. Like it shook you enough that your why then was so big that you went in the next day and handed in your resignation. And now you have gone through this whole transformation, and now you're a business owner. And like, you have to have such a big why to guide you through that level of change. And I think what sometimes people lose focus on is like, when they start in this, they think it might just be about the money. They're like, oh, I want to make X amount, or I want to make 5K or 10K or 30K a month, whatever. But that's not a big enough why.
No.
Like, what is, and it, okay, I get it. We live in an expensive world. Like, money is on the mind for most people. And I understand that. But what does the money do for you? And how do you actually want to live your life? And what kind of quality of life do you want your children to have? I think pinpointing those will drive you and drive that why, so that when you have hard days, or when, maybe you got a no from a dream client, whatever it is, you'll still move forward, because the money is not going to be that big of a why. It needs to be something deeper. Like, no, I'm going to keep doing this because I'm going to pick my kid up on time from school every day. And that is like that driving factor that you needed.
100%. And, you know, I think a lot of people talk about, they talk about finding their purpose and finding their why. And I think that's really important. And for me, I was sort of on this elusive search for my purpose for a really long time. And it was kind of around that moment when I realized I'd been searching for my purpose in work and in my career.
Mm.
And actually, my purpose is to be the best mum that I can be, you know, and work is the thing that kind of supports me being able to do that. So if I'm doing something that I enjoy from a career perspective, that will bring me the money and the wealth that I need to be the best mum, to create these experiences, to be around, you know, just to be present and to be, you know, not chained to a desk in a shitty office in the city that, you know, doing work that doesn't light me up. You know, now I get to work from home. I drop her off at school, I pick her up from school. You know, we spend a heap of time together as a family, and it's just, yeah, for me the money and the wealth is the freedom. The money buys the freedom to allow me to create experiences, and that's my driver really. Like I don't think of, and actually, it's something that I've been playing with quite recently. I had for a long time this money mindset when I started the business 5 years ago that it was, you know, as long as I had just enough to pay the bills and pay the mortgage, that was okay. And someone said to me, "Oh, so you're just really running a lifestyle business?" And I was like, yeah, I'm running a lifestyle business, like it supports my lifestyle and that's fine, and I've got just enough. And this phrase of just enough kept coming up.
Mm.
And probably in the last year, probably not coincidentally that it, you know, is the time that I found you and Willow, I I started to change that narrative around, and I was like, no, I don't want just enough. I want more than enough. You know, I want an abundance, and not because I'm greedy or because I'm, you know, driven by my ego, but because I want to be able to create a life for my family where my partner doesn't necessarily have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work. And, you know, if my daughter wants an extra horse riding lesson that week, she can have one. And if we want to pay for our parents to fly over from the UK, we can do that. Like that's the life that I am now driven to create. And so this whole mindset around money and wealth and abundance is, you know, I'm in go mode now. Like I think I've been coasting for the last 5 years, just sort of finding my way and figuring out what the thing is that I really want to do. And now that I've really kind of gone all in on brand and website design, this is it. Like 2025 for me is like we're going.
Oh,
We're on the
wa-
way.
watch out, everyone.
Yeah, yeah. She's here. She's back.
I
And I
love
was also really operating, and I think this goes back to the burnout thing. Like I was very much operating in a very masculine energy. So I was in a, you know, I was in the construction industry. I was
Mhm.
surrounded by men for my entire career, and I was operating from a masculine energy.
Yeah.
And then I burnt out because like I was out of balance. And so the work that I did brought me back into the feminine, and I've been living in that space for probably like the last 4 or 5 years. And it was almost like the scales were tipping the other way. Like I was in the masculine and I burnt out, and then I was in the feminine and I was just sort of coasting along a little bit. And now it's this sort of sense that I'm really balanced and really aligned. And that beautiful fusion of the masculine and the feminine is allowing me to just, you know, do the work that I want to do with heart, but
Mm.
also with this like boss bitch drive that I'm gonna
Yes.
kind of make things happen and create this incredible business.
Well, I love this for you.
Yeah.
I am obsessed. And it is so amazing, honestly, to be having this conversation because I think you're not alone in having that mindset of, I'll just get by. I just need enough to get by, to pay my mortgage, to, you know, get groceries, whatever it is. But imagine, I always think like, because I don't have kids yet, but we will have kids. And I always think, how do I want to raise them? And I was raised where, my parents told me that I could be anything. Thanks to them, I have confidence. It's just through
Yeah.
the roof. But they used to gas me up and be like, you could do it. You could do anything. And there's the classic thing of like, you teach your kids that they could become president, like whatever they dream of, tell them that they can do it. But imagine if you were like, you ask your little kid, oh, what do you want to do when you're up or when you grow up? And they're like, oh, just get by, just
Yeah.
get by, pay the bills, but whatever. You're as a parent, I think would be like, okay, let's dream a little bigger. Why do you
Yeah.
want to just get by? And I think that mindset is so conditioned. It's such a corporate mentality because they want you to feel like that because that's great for them.
Mm.
But why just get by? Like that is not the way to experience life. And it's when you talk about being able to buy freedom, like
Mm.
the more you have, the more freedom and autonomy you have over your life and your lifestyle and your experiences, and also your ability to give back, whether it's to your daughter or family or just strangers. And like, I think that the more money that gets into good people's hands, the better. And like the better off our world will be. And so I love that you had a mindset, money expansion once you came into our world.
Yeah.
Because it really needs to be shaken up because so many people think, I'll just get by. Like,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah. And I definitely felt like that. And it was this, I think it was because of the experience of burning out. And, I was in a pretty senior position and I'd climbed the corporate ladder and I think the mindset around I'll just get by was almost out of fear because I didn't want to go into that place of like hustling hard and working really hard and because I associated working hard with making money and it's
Yeah.
and we'll probably get to this in a minute when we talk about some numbers, but I had a couple of months recently where I did not feel like I was even really working, and they were my 2 biggest months since starting the business. So it just proves the point that you do not have to hustle hard. Like, yeah, you have to work hard. You have to put in the right kind of energy, and bring the passion and bring the enthusiasm, but it's not at the whim of, breaking yourself to the point of not being able to function as a human, And so
100%.
once I got past that fear of, okay, well, making money doesn't have to look like it did back in 2019 when I like hit rock bottom, and I switched that mindset. And it's been, there's been coaches that I've worked with during that time, and there's been books that I've read and podcasts, but I think a lot of it came from seeing what you and Willow had or have created, and that drive of like, you can do something that you're really passionate about, that brings you joy, that lights you up, and it doesn't have to feel like a grind. You can create this hugely abundant, beautiful life doing what you love. And I'm probably in a slightly privileged position because I live in a nice place and we live in Sydney, and I've got a really super supportive partner. But I think when you have a goal and you have the drive, I do think anything's possible. And I think you just need the support of the right people around you, and you need to find a community, and just people that will be your cheerleader and champion you, like your parents did for you. Just having that unconditional belief that you can do anything you set your mind to and dream big. And that's what I want to pass on to my daughter for sure.
Yeah. You're creating a legacy like that. It'll be, she is going to look up to you as her biggest influence in her life. And for you to show her to not settle in a job that doesn't shine your light, but if anything was like dimming or like straight turned off that lamp, And I think it's so beautiful because like the next generation will watch leaders and people like you who led, like you quit your safety net, like everything that you had been working towards building, and it was out of something really bigger than you. And it was like now this business that you get to work less and have the biggest months that you've had, which is
Yeah.
crazy. And I'm excited to dive deeper into that because as soon as you said that, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
spill. But it is just really incredible and it's really inspiring and it's really cool to know that the next generation, like they're watching, you know, they're seeing, and then we're leading by example, which I think is so cool. Okay. So spill, spill the tea. So, okay, actually, before we get there, let's go from like 5 years ago to now. Because you started a business before you found me and you took
Yeah.
the courses. So quickly fill me in on like what that journey was like.
Yeah, so I kind of fell into it. I hadn't,
Okay.
as I mentioned, I hadn't planned to start this business. It was just I quit my job. A couple of people in my network kind of heard that I was, out on my own, and they were like, "Oh, we've got this thing. We'd love you to help us with it." And so I set up an ABN, which meant that I can operate as a sole trader.
Mhm.
And I just started doing consulting work basically to help companies in the property space win new work. So I do a lot of
Okay.
writing. So I do a lot of tender writing. And then I was also creating marketing brochures and polishing up people's brand. And then I started dabbling a little bit in websites. Like I've always loved building websites. But it's always just kind of been for fun. It's never really been
Mhm.
super serious. And so yeah, so the Creative Lodge, which is the name of the business, that that really was serving people in the corporate space, more specifically in property and construction. And so all of my work has come from word of mouth and referrals. I've never had to do any marketing, so that's a really, again, quite a privileged position to be in. I'm very fortunate that I'd built a network over the last, decade in the industry where people just came to me because they knew me and they trusted me, and they knew that I could kind of deliver the goods to help them grow their
Yeah.
own business. And so I've always been a connector. Like that's one of my superpowers, being able to connect people and see where these relationships could sort of blossom into reciprocated business for each of them. So yeah, so the last 5 years has really been working on just tackling projects in the property and construction space. But I've started to realize that whilst I do love the industry, and I have, I definitely have as admiration for that space. Like I said earlier, I didn't feel like I could see the impact that it was having. Like, and I started
Mm.
to be a lot more discerning with the type of clients that I took on. So a lot of the clients that I work with in that space now are working on social infrastructure projects where they're building schools and they're building hospitals, and they're not just building high-rise commercial offices to make, a ton of money. Like they're actually building things in the world that are having an impact. And so yeah, I started to sort of shift the client base a little bit and became more discerning around the projects that I took on and the people that I decided I wanted to work with. And I would say probably in the last year, I've realized that I have all of the skill sets that I need to be able to shift into a new um, target audience. And so I've created a personal brand that has allowed me to really fully show up as myself, because there with the Creative Lodge it was quite corporate, and there were things that I definitely held back on talking about, the spiritual side of my life and that personal development journey. And it was very much like, this is the thing that I do, and this is the result that you'll get. Whereas now with the Kate Lodge personal brand, I integrate all aspects of my life. So I talk about you know
I love it.
woo woo, the woo woo stuff. And it's kind
Everything.
of like there was this Rick Rubin podcast that I listened to where he talked about as a business owner and a content creator, which I hate, by the way, like I hate the thought of being a content creator, but he reframed it to, treat your social media and treat your work like you're creating art, and
Mm,
treat it like a journal. So for the
mm,
last few months, I've just kind of been experimenting a little bit
I
around
love that.
that approach.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's felt good. It's taken the pressure off feeling like I need to kind of be this, um, all in social media person, because it doesn't come naturally to me because I've never really had to do that marketing side of things. So I think Wealthy Web Designer definitely helped me become more confident in showing up on my socials for sure.
Yeah, I love that. It
Mm.
also must feel way more freeing because what you created with the Creative Lodge, like, while yes, it was completely your own business, you had the freedom, all of that, but you're still kind of in this box of corporate. You're talking to
Yeah,
corporate, you're being very
yeah,
polished, and there's just a way of upholding yourself when you are in corporate and you're talking to certain level of people. And so I love the switch to building a personal brand where you are free to talk about whatever comes to mind and
yeah,
whatever also has been a part of your transformation, because other people need to hear that. And I always love to look at it as, if you're sharing a good message that people need, which if you're not, like, what's the point of creating content? Hopefully you are,
mm,
and so if you look at your content as like a message that people need, like it's kind of a disservice to not, because what if someone lands on your socials and they're, hearing you talk about your experience and, gave one tip that then could end up completely changing their entire life. And so I think it's such a powerful way to, like, there's so much stigma around being like an influencer,
mm.
but when you have good influence, like, we all are influencing everyone around us all the time. And so it's just using your voice for good, which I think is really beautiful.
Yeah, and like you say, if there's just one person that
Yeah.
hears, my experience or feels inspired, like I've always wanted to be, again, without sounding like there's a big ego behind it, I've always wanted to inspire people. I've had lots of people come into my world where, we'd have a conversation and they'd walk away from it going, "Oh my God, like I feel like I've got clarity," or like, "You've really inspired me to do, XYZ." And I love that. Like I love that, people can hear somebody else's story and experience and
Yeah.
shift their perspective, and maybe they make a change or yeah, introduce something new into their life.
It's so cool. I love it. So when you mentioned that you have worked the least and you made the most, what did that
Yeah.
look like for you?
So I started to, in the last few months, I've started to switch to packages. So
Okay.
previously I had been, scoping every project and, working out a lengthy proposal and hourly rates that go along with that and all the
Yeah.
rest of it. And that's time consuming in itself. And so I started to switch over to a more structured packaged approach. So I have brand in a day, website in a week, and then I have a VIP design intensive day. And just by offering those three packages, it allowed me to just be really clear on what it was that I was offering, be super
Yeah.
clear on the time frame, super clear on the investment, and this idea that simple scales is something that's kind of been in my head for a little while. And yeah, those 2 months were, I think I'd started dabbling with the Kate Lodge Instagram like middle of the year, so maybe like June, July time. And I'd created this sort of aesthetic and I was starting to post content, and then I was getting stuck and it just really didn't feel like me.
Mm.
And I was in this container with a group of incredible women, and the one of them in there sort of challenged me and said, "Look, I don't think this feels like you." And I said, "No, you're right. Like it doesn't. It doesn't. It's like I'm trying to create an aesthetic that I feel like is on trend, and it's just stopping me from actually really, fully coming out in my own expression." And so in a day, I kind of turned that around and I've redesigned it to how you see it now. And so I sort of launched these packages in August, and August and September were my two biggest months. And it's not all website work, it's definitely a blend of brand and website. But I hit 21,000 and then 24,000 Australian dollars in those 2 months. And honestly, it felt like I wasn't really working that hard, like because the projects were so contained,
Yeah.
like the brand in a day and the VIP design day, like we just get so much done in that time space that it doesn't feel draining because it's not dragging on over, weeks and months. And
It's exactly that.
I had a project that started, oh gosh, it would have been probably 9 months ago, and it was just going on and on. And by that time, I'd lost momentum. I'd kind of lost a little bit of interest, and it
Yeah.
just felt like a long, hard slog. Whereas when I've switched to these package, day and week approaches, you can just turn things around quicker, and it helps with understanding your cash flow because you can book those days in, and okay, for this month these are the projects that I've got booked in. Because again, whilst working on the longer projects, I wouldn't necessarily know when a project was going to finish. The other thing that was really great about switching to these packages was that I could kind of schedule them in. There wasn't too many things that were overlapping, which would then cause, overwhelm and stress. It was like, okay, I know that on this day I've got this project, and on this day I've got this VIP day, and I can just completely go all in and focus on that client and that project rather than trying to, have lots of different things that are going on at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly think that's the biggest game changer in business. And I, obviously, because I teach all about it in like the packaging capacities, because I think it's such a waste of time to create proposals and create different scopes of work. And then also it's so much mental load to have different scopes of work as deliverables for all different clients, because then nothing is consistent. It's really hard to track, and it kind of just creates chaos, honestly. So I think even like, yes, it allows you to control kind of your cash flow and understand that, but also your capacity and like your bandwidth and your mental load, because you don't have any outbound before they're a paying client, which I think is the craziest thing, that in our creative world, it's so normalized to get on a call with someone for free and then create an entire outline of the projects that you're going to create for them for free, do research for free. It's so wild. And I think if anything, that needs to be like just completely abolished. Like it needs to go away. And if anyone is listening and it maybe has that, built into their business, I think I'd push you to try packaging it up, because it does create this level of transparency from the get-go. Someone goes to your site, they know how much it is, what they're going to get, who is it for and who is it not for. It will allow not only yourself to free up your time and, make it easier for you on the back end, but also it allows them to have an easier client experience, because I'll be on the side of it, investing. I invest into my business a lot, and I want just a straight shooter. I want to go to this site and I want to know exactly what I'll get. I want to know the investment. I do not want to have to get on a call and get a proposal after. So I do think it's actually a win-win scenario for both parties.
Yeah, and excuse me, I came from a world of being in a creative agency where, pitching and doing full-blown concepts as part of an unpaid proposal phase was so normal. And
Mm,
I would look at the work that they were doing, and they could be spending 4 weeks of a team of 4 people working on a design concept for a new brand with no guarantee that they were even going to get paid for it, because there were 3 other creative agencies that were pitching for the same job. So I came from that
yeah.
mindset of thinking like you got to scope everything out and you got to put a little bit of free work in order to secure the job. And actually, no, like if you know who you're talking to and you're really confident in your methodology and your approach and the way that you work and the deliverables and the results and output that the client's going to get,
Yeah.
it's again, that I come back to that kind of simple scales. It's easy to sell in and it's easy for them to buy, because there's
Mm,
absolute clarity, like this is what it's going to cost, this is what you're going to get, this is how I'm going to deliver it, and we're going to
mm.
co-create this thing. And yeah, it just removes all of that sort of ambiguity and those sort of gray areas, I suppose.
Yeah, 100%. And also, I don't even think I congratulated you on your 21 and
Oh, thank
$24,000
you.
months. I think that deserves a slow clap because
Thank you.
that is so impressive. And I'm just so proud of you for not only that, but really just the whole journey that you've had and the transformation and you owning what you wanted and, not settling and obviously putting the work towards, like, you've done a lot of work
Yeah.
to now get to a point where you don't have to work as much. You don't have to trade your time for money and clock in and clock out and work for someone else's dream. And the fact that you're able to build your own dream up and teach
Yeah.
your daughter that and also hit 21 and $24,000 months. It's
Yeah.
insane. It's wild. And I'm just so proud of you. It's such an
Thank you.
accomplishment.
Thank you so much. Well, you've been a huge inspiration in that journey over the last 12 months. So after I discovered you, I binged every single podcast, and it's the only podcast that I have on like subscribe or follow. So I know, the moment that you release a new episode. And yeah, just I think seeing what you've created and seeing that, I just look at you as my cheerleader. Like, even though this is the first time we've had a conversation, I felt like for the last 12 months, I can tune into a podcast with you and Willow, or I can hop on your Instagram, and it's like every now and again when I need that boost of confidence, and I'm like, yeah, like Becca says I can do this. I've fucking got this. It's like, so yeah, so I'm super grateful that you are now in my world, and that I've
Yeah.
gone through the wealthy web designer, and yeah, it's been great.
My gosh, I adore you. You are so cute. And I really appreciate it. And I'm glad that I can be that inspiration for you. And it obviously gives me the validation of, okay, what I'm doing is working. And also just so cool that, you know, social media and, having this like outlet can allow someone like you to be inspired and start, chasing more and wanting to desire more and build wealth and all of that. It just is, it's so wild and crazy. And also it's just so beautiful. And so thank you for saying that.
No, that's, yeah, my pleasure. And I think, I've also, through other people that have gone through the program, like I watched another student interview that you did with someone who's also in Australia, and we went and we met for lunch, and we're like new best friends. And that was because I'd watched an interview and I'd reached out to her and I was like, hey, we've both gone through the program. We're both in Sydney. Should we just catch up? And it would be good to sort of meet a fellow web designer that's had an experience with going through Becca's courses. And so yeah, we were hanging out on Thursday night for dinner, and And there's been a couple of situations where I've sort of just reached out to people that I know are in the community. And yeah, so just starting to build, real beautiful friendships through you being the common thread of, that experience has been so wonderful.
I love that so much. And next time you're with her, can you please take a selfie and send it to me? Because I want to see you guys.
I will for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Post it and tag me or send it, DM me or whatever. I love that so much. Well, thank you so much for being on here today with me and taking the time. And your story is going to inspire so many people. I'm sure of it. And it's just really incredible what you've done. And I'm just so proud of you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Before we hop off, where can people come hang out with you?
Come hang out with me. So come hang out with me on Instagram. So it's katelodge.co. You won't miss me because it's very bright and
It's bright.
fun. And yeah, and I'm in the process of building my new website at the moment. I've got a photo shoot booked for the start of February, which I'm really excited about. So there'll be a kind of big launch for the new website real soon. And yeah, just come out and hang out and say hi on Instagram.
And the fact that you did $21,000 and $24,000 without a website is crazy. I just have to add that.
Yes.
It is so
Yeah,
cool.
sure.
Well, thank you so much. And yeah, with that, we'll see you guys next time.
Hold up and don't stop, babe.